Aloha kakahiaka, everybody. Welcome to the Aloha Friday Ask Us Anything Real Estate Show. Our good friend Peter K is off on a well-deserved break, and so I am your guest host today. You guys all know and very familiar with me. Again, welcome back, you guys. I am going to bring on all of my friends here from around the state. We have Patrick Chandler from Oahu. We have Kara Crimmins from Maui. And let me add Ronnie here. And we have Ronnie Margolis from the island of Kauai. So we have the entire state represented today on the show. I am actually on the island of Kauai. That's why I have a different background and my normal situation. But yes, I'm spending the day with Ronnie and our team over here. But it's a beautiful morning. We've already had a bunch of sun and a little bit of rain, and it is only 9 a.m. So typical, I think, Kauai weather. But let's go around the state real quick. Kara, how's the weather? What's happening on Maui?
I have to say that it is a little bit cloudy, but there's no hurricanes and there's still rainbows to be had. So we are rocking today. It's a high 82, little dense, but it's still beautiful at the beaches and surf is low. So get out and get your suntans.
I love it. I love it. What's Oahu looking like, Patrick? I was with you guys yesterday on Oahu, and it was a beautiful day. What's it looking like over there today?
Same as yesterday, just as gorgeous. Right now, just a whole bunch of clouds out there, but it's like partly cloudy, same temperature. You know, just to echo Kara, it's just a beautiful day today.
Awesome. And where is it at? How's it in your neck of the woods, Ronnie? I'm down by the beach. I know you're a little bit further up in the hills.
What do you think? You know what they say? I don't know if they say that on every island, but if you don't like the weather on Kauai, just wait 5 minutes. That's kind of what they say. Patrick, I didn't know you played the piano.
I don't.
oh, I see.
The beauty of virtual backgrounds, right?
That's for my boy.
Cool.
Love it. All right, so let's get rolling here, guys. Again, this is our September 27th Ask Us Anything show. We have some questions queued up a little later on in the show, but if you have anything that you want to ask, just throw them in the comments. I'll be doing my best to monitor the comments. We already have Monica on and watching. How's it going, Monica? Thanks for joining us. Good to see you. And so what we're going to do is, as we always do, here's our quick agenda. Is we're going to go through a market update. There's some very interesting things happening in the market across the state. So we'll get everybody's input on that and what they're feeling and seeing, and maybe some projections on what it's going to look like towards the end of the year and the new year. And then we have a couple of questions queued up. And again, if you guys have anything that you want us to address, we always take the live questions first, but we always have prepared ones just in case on questions that were submitted previously. And then to wrap up the show, we have our diamonds and deals, some featured properties around the state from everybody. And then we'll end with some closing comments and thoughts at the end. So Judy, thanks for joining us. Judy Weber's on also, our faithful. She's our community manager. And so you'll see her on the Facebook page, and we'll be joining is on the final stages of getting her real estate license activated and join our team officially after making the move here. So welcome, Judy. All right, so let's get into the market update. We'll get started. I'm just gonna go in a row right here since Kara's the next one up. But Kara, what's happening over on Maui? I think we're all gonna have a similar take on what's going on, but let's kick us off with a discussion on what's happening with the market.
Well, I want to dig straight into the condo market. That's where I'm seeing the most volatility right from the beginning. You know, we think that the market's split in between residential and condominium, obviously here on Maui. And I do a statistic where it's a year over year comparison. And we used to have a normalization of 700,000 is our average price for condos. And now our average price is at $1 million. It's up 33.3%. And there's still this huge increase of what's going on the market for how many are listed. So we have an increase of 278% of what is going on market from last year. At a low 230 in 2023 to a whopping 753 units for condominiums. So when you look at that, when we have this influx of condos, then the price and the days on market stay high. So we're at a 92-day minimum, up 39.4%. So the reason that there's so many condos going on the market, obviously, we have a lot of issues with insurance here and people are changing. We have influx in volatility of not knowing if we're going to be moving from the short-term vacation market pushed into the long-term vacation market. So people are saying, hey, we're out of the the condominium, and that's what we're seeing. So that's going to be volatile for a little while until the ruling comes out whether or not we're going in the direction of long-term rental, switching over from short-term. So when we look at the residential side, I'm pleasantly surprised to see that our average price, even though it seems high, it was at a high before of 1.5 million. I don't know if you remember that time when it was like getting really edged up high. We've come down a little bit, and the average residential is 1.325 million in that zone, still up from last month, but overall it's come down. And our listings, we have an increase of 69% listings. So we have items to buy for residential, and our time for market, days on market, has actually gone down. So I think that if you're looking to buy on Maui, residential is where you want to be. Not only are you getting a better price, you're getting more options and a better close. So that is my market update.
Very interesting dynamics, right? Like lots more inventory, but prices are continuing to stay high. And then the whole difference between the condo and housing market is dramatic. And yeah, it's a very, very interesting market right now. Very weird.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see what's going on Oahu, Patrick. What you got on Oahu?
Similar dynamics. It seems that the only factor that we're not running into, of course, is the vacation rental legislation challenge. But our inventory is slowly climbing back up. And specifically, just like Kara said, I think nationally, not just in our island, condos in general are having challenges, especially with insurance, challenges with the insurance rates going up. Everybody's having to deal with that. HOAs are having to raise rates to accommodate for that. And that's creating some volatility in the condo market here in Oahu. So if you're buying a condo and you're needing to do financing, you almost have to pre-qualify a building before you can even write an offer to see if it's something that you can go into. And the pricing in the condo market has actually come down a little bit in the previous years. We're still just over that $500K mark on average for condos island-wide. On the single-family home side, very strong, very steady. We're still in that 1.1, 1.2 range average per island. But those single-family homes, if they're staged right, priced right, they're moving very quickly. Days on market are increasing in general around the island. It's been kind of a strange month, this month of September.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice that you just gave. If you're shopping for condos, it's almost critical now that you really focus in on what buildings you're looking at and base your qualification and your financing off of that specific building versus like just before, kind of like you just shop in general and there would be little variations in HOA fees and things like that. But because of insurance and other issues, there's definitely some really critical aspects that can disqualify buildings or really change how much you qualify for, right?
Absolutely.
All right, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Kauai, what's happening on Kauai, Ronnie?
Well, you've been here for like 17 hours. You must know. No, I'll tell you.
I've seen, in 17 hours, you can see all of the listings on the island, right? So good to go.
Well, in our helicopter. I want to just drill down a little bit into the weeds of what both Kara and Patrick had to say and what we're talking about with insurance. Because if you follow the news, you see what's going on as we record this show with Hurricane Helene. And so it's just more of the same. There have been so many hurricanes as we deal with global warming. And that has meant that the insurance carriers for hurricane insurance in the islands will no longer insure these condo complexes. So the balance of that money that's needed to insure it 100% is coming from the homeowners. And that's happening statewide. It's probably happening nationwide. It's just that because we have hurricane insurance that's high when you're right on the ocean, it really exacerbates it. So same thing is true here on the condo market. You know, of all the islands in the state, it's the island of Kauai that's been the most forward and very clear about what our rules are for vacation rentals. And so we have properties within the visitor destination area that you can rent short-term, whether they have been rented in the past or not. And then we have those properties that have been grandfathered in. We call them TVNCU, Transient Vacation Non-Conforming Use Certificates. And that changed in 2009, and there's still about 440 of them. So the county's response to the state legislation about each county having the ability to deal with the status of these vacation rentals is that the council's looking at a moratorium, meaning winding down the value of those properties. But I think once they do their numbers, see A, how much tax revenue they're going to lose, and B, how many lawsuits they're going to have, probably nothing will happen with that. That being said, because of those dynamics, and I think one more to add to Kara, it's not just the insurance, it's not just the concern, it's the fact that prices got so out of control. And so the buyers are like, hold on, you know, that condo that was selling for $600 at the beginning of COVID, now you're asking $1.4, you know. And so I don't know the MLSs that well in Oahu or Maui, since we have 3 different multiple listing services in our state. But when you look at what we call the dashboard, which is the real-time update of what every realtor puts in, all you see is down arrows, you know, prices going down. It could be, you know, something stupid like $1,000 a day as they finally get to a real price. Or, you know, in the higher priced pieces of land or estates, you know, they might drop $350,000, $750,000. So that's a trend, but I think more in the condo market is the realization that if people want to sell their units, they need to get more real with the price, right? Because the economics, if I'm the type of buyer that wants to get a vacation rental and I'm depending on some level of revenue helping me defray the cost, that jump in homeowners' dues is a big thing. And the high prices is a big thing. So when you do the math, from an investment point of view, it ain't that exciting. So,
absolutely,
you know, for buyers, the factor that they have more choices, more leverage. I mean, if I look at our island, what do we sell in the month of September? Now we have 2 more days, right? We have today and we have Monday before we wrap out the monthly numbers. But at the moment, 16 condos sold in the month of September, and there's 154 listed on the island. So do the math. You know, with that absorption rate, you know, the market definitely favors the buyers.
Yeah, it's like 10 months of inventory, right? So I mean, that's heavy buyers market, and that's what I was going to focus on, you know, on comments for the Big Island is we are going to see one of the historically lowest months of sales, number of sales overall, land, condos, residential, that we've seen in a long time. I just looked back, 311 was the lowest we've had in the last 12 months, and we were at 294 this morning. And so with 2 days left, like Ronnie said, to record sales, we're going to see a very, very low number of sales overall. But like Kara talked about, I mean, prices are pretty much staying the same or a few percent higher than they were last year. So the prices haven't really caught up. But I think with what Ronnie is saying, definitely that the market's going to have to work itself back out because it was so overinflated at one point that buyers are, that's one of the factors that are definitely holding buyers back. But the other factor, which we're not going to get into the specifics of, is the election. I think that's a huge factor right now in just behavior. Is 100% of the country believes that the world could end in 6 weeks, because if one person wins, half believe the world will end, and if the other person wins, half believe the world will end. So everybody believes the world could end, and so nobody is really doing anything or making large financial decisions unless they really, really have to, right? I mean, they're the shopper who is kind of on the fence and not sure, it seems like, is definitely sitting on their hands. And then with the recent news that came out of the short-term interest rates going down. It takes a while for that to get caught up with the mortgage rates, but 6 weeks from now, 2 months from now, that could all happen. And I think there's some anticipation that rates will come down, and it's another reason for folks to wait right now. But yeah, very, very interesting dynamics overall. Anything else you guys got on that, kind of looking back and forth at the different markets?
I think if you're one of those people, which sounds like everyone according to your math, Dylan, that thinks the world is going to end, there's no reason to hesitate and come to anywhere in the state of Hawaii, because we live in a bubble. Sometimes I feel embarrassed about it, but we watch what goes on throughout the country, and it's like, boy, are we lucky to be out here. And specifically,
amen to that.
The most rural island, Kauai. I remember even back during COVID talking to Derek, the mayor, and it's like, we just agree, like, yeah, we're like in a bubble. We're isolated, and that's fortunate. Unless you want to be, in the center of the world ending, then don't come.
Ronnie, your sense of humor always gets me.
We got a couple more friends here that have joined us. I want to say hi to. We got Bob Carlo from Hawaii Kai. Welcome, Bob. Uncle Jim is here. He is a long time watcher and listener, staple of the show. Thanks for joining us. And then we also have a question here. So let's take this question from Kathy about condos generally being pet friendly, or does each individual one, is there a difference? And so who wants to take their, go ahead, Kara. Go ahead.
I will dive in straight away. Over here on Maui, it's very infrequent that we have condos that are pet friendly. There's a definite, if you type in anti-Google and say pet friendly condos on Maui, you'll get the full list, or I could send it, or we could send it. However, it's very small. That's what I wanted to share. I know everybody else had their hands up as well.
Patrick,
yeah, it's same. I'd probably say, without crunching the hard numbers, it's more like a 50-50 shot would be a fair assumption. And even then you're going to run into restrictions, size and weight restrictions, breed restrictions. One of my favorite condos out here in Hawaii Kai allows cats, but doesn't allow dogs. And I'm like, what? I'm a dog person, so that one I take personally. So yeah, all the buildings have their own rules, their own house rules around stuff, and they've evolved for whatever reason. I always tell people, when you look at rules, there's always a story behind it somewhere. It's probably not a funny one as to how that rule evolved and got it put in place. But I'm pretty sure with the house rules that are in effect for different pet policies on different buildings, something happened somewhere in the past in that building that caused that change to happen. So yeah, we're surprisingly, the islands of Oahu condos, I don't feel are as pet friendly as other parts of the country that I've lived in the past.
Yeah, I would agree with you on the. It's hard when somebody asks, is it pet friendly? That's such a loaded question because there's so much context to that. Versus, whether it's cats and dogs, size, do you need board approval? Sometimes you can have birds and sometimes you can't. I mean, so really depending on what your pet is, you really want to focus in on specifically, because a lot of times the search engines, the MLSs and like Zillow will have pet friendly, yes or no, but that's not really a helpful answer, because if it says yes, you don't have all the context between what yes actually means. So any variation on that for Kauai, Ronnie, that you've noticed?
Well, first I want to really thank Kathy Stellman for that question, because she's given me some great YouTube content, because it's something people want to know about. And I followed Kara's cogent advice, and I Googled that, and I found there are 48 condo complexes on Kauai that allow pets. Now, I concur with Patrick. I think it's universal. Different complexes have different rules. Many of the condo complexes have stupid stuff like nothing over 20 pounds.
Right.
And, sometimes I tell people you might want to put your pet on a diet to get in there, but it's not always a good strategy. Some of them will have one dog and one cat, so it's all over the map. But I think the main thing to consider is that The condo complexes that are not in the visitor destination area, these are full-time residents, owners, or renters. They're going to mostly be allowed to have pets. The vacation rental, it's a different thing because the mindset of the association is, they don't want poop on the grounds and anything that would disturb the guests. So it's different there. But I'm gonna write a blog post and do a video. So if you want to know where you can bring your animals on Kauai, I can help you.
I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. And again, guys that are joining us, if you guys have questions, just drop them in the comments and we'll take them as they come in. We're going to do a quick station break here and remind everybody that the IslanderOhanna is starting next month, and today is the last day to sign up. So this is a program. It is a 8-week course. There is online learning. There are in-person, or not in-person, but virtual in-person meetings. And the purpose behind this is to, if you are considering moving to Hawaii, or if you're already here, we want to avoid any disasters, any mistakes, anything that's going to make that process any harder, or help you evaluate if it's the right move for you. And so this has been an amazing program that's been going on for a few years now. Peter leads it, and you can learn from his decades of wisdom. He came here in the 80s and has taken a long time to figure it out, but he definitely has a goal of helping people make a good decision if they're going to move to Hawaii, and then how to transition as smoothly as possible, and everything from healthcare to education to finding jobs. I mean, everything you can think of, and any questions that you have will be addressed. And one of the coolest parts about it is you make a lot of new friends. You come here with a group of folks and alumni like Judy, who have gone through the program, who are kind of your built-in community when you get here if you don't have a big one. So the next cohort is going to start in October. If you have any questions, reach out. You can go to livinginhawaii.com or IslanderOhanna.com, and there's more information there, and you can get signed up. So we only do these a few times a year, so don't miss it. It'll be months before it's available again. So that's your station break for today. And so the first big question that we have, and again, if you guys have any questions, just drop them in the comments and we'll take them. But we got a question about, are there Tesla supercharger stations on the islands, and where are they located? And this is an interesting question because I think there's going to be a lot of diversity between the islands. And so I'm going to start with Oahu, because I think if you're thinking about Tesla superchargers, it's probably where you're going to have the most availability. So what do you got to say on this, Patrick?
So when I saw that this question was coming up, the first thing I did was jump to Tesla's website and pull up their map of superchargers, because I just wanted to see where they all were myself. And the good news is we've got about like a half a dozen spread out through the island. So there is quite a few to choose from. But even in addition to the Tesla superchargers, we've actually got a pretty robust charging infrastructure above and beyond that too. So there's quite a few charging stations throughout the island of Oahu.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I mean, Oahu's probably got the best infrastructure for electric vehicles. And then on the other end of the spectrum, let's go to Kauai and see what are you seeing on Kauai, Ronnie, in terms of infrastructure for electric vehicles?
Well, I know at our main mall, Kukui Grove, there are a number of charging stations. I'm not really that well versed in the topic, but I sure see a lot of Teslas on this island. So I'm going to guess that there are plenty of options. That'd be my guess. Yeah.
And I'll add to that after we get Kara's input. So Kara, what do you see on Maui in terms of charging stations?
Of course, with the Tesla supercharger, you have to have them at the Ritz-Carlton and at the Four Seasons in Wailea. It's no joke. That's exactly where they are. So we have the Wailea Four Seasons. We have the Ritz-Carlton supercharger. And then we have the $3 million installation of the park and ride in Kahului, which is kind of the pivot point of everywhere. It's where you get off the airplane, you get your rental car, and then you can charge and go anywhere. They have 4 chargers that are there right now, and that's in addition to the Wailea and the Ritz-Carlton. So that's our central area for the superchargers. However, like Patrick was saying, we have over 190 charging stations on this little island that are not Tesla superchargers, however, they are just EV. And I think that you're seeing a lot more of the EV cars here, including that really super cool, weird, futuristic EV truck that is very interesting. So if y'all know what I'm talking about, the Cybertruck, yes, isn't that strange? It makes me want to look inside and see if Doc from that movie Back to the Future is in there. But yeah, so we have a lot of superchargers as well as EVs on the island.
Yeah, so what I can add to this is on the Big Island, I'm actually there are a ton of charging stations. I believe there's only one actually supercharger station out in Maui, which is like a high-end resort area. But I am on my second Tesla, so I have firsthand experience with this. I've been an owner for almost 5 years now. And for me personally, I've never used a public charger. I just had a charger installed in my house. And so if that's an option for you, I think it's a way better, more convenient option. I have friends that live in condominium complexes, so they don't have necessarily the ability to install a private charger, but at your house, all you need is access to your 220 main outlet, and it's $500. You got to have an electrician come and install it, but basically you get 35 miles an hour of charge out of it. So it's not a supercharger. Superchargers usually 45 minutes to an hour, you can get a full charge, but you can have that easily installed at any home as long as you have access to the electric panel, which in most cases you will. You may have to run some wires, but I think from if you're going to have an electric vehicle in Hawaii and you have your own house, it's probably the most, it makes the most sense, especially if you have solar on your house, because then you're basically, using power from the sun and you're not paying for it. But there is a huge prevalence of Teslas, I think, in electric vehicles all across the state. Right? I think all of you guys would agree with the new Ford Mustang electric vehicles, and Kia has a whole slew.
Saw a Rivian the other day.
Rivians, yep, seeing Rivians all over the place. Yeah, one of the bizarre things about Hawaii, which we always talk about on this show, is that we're like one of the few states that has no real tax incentive to get an electric vehicle. I mean, we have all this solar, and we're supposed to be so environmentally friendly, but every time I've purchased a Tesla, I look, and there's a long list of state. There's a federal tax credits, but there's like no state tax credits in Hawaii to purchase an electric vehicle, and you actually get hosed on registration because the registration is higher because you're not paying gas taxes, right? So they increase the registration costs when you register your electric vehicle because they got to get you on the front end because they're not getting you on the back end at the pump when you actually go and fill up. So it's great. I think it's I love electric vehicles, but it's not all roses and bright side. There's some downside too, and you just got to evaluate. But I feel like, me personally, my first one, I had it for 3 years. Never ever had anybody ever touched it. There was no maintenance. There was no need for repairs. There's no oil changes. So really, the cost of ownership is very, very low if you can figure out the cost of charging it at a relatively low rate. And I have solar on my house, so it's not bad. But I think in the grand scheme of things, it's the costs have come way down right now because the market is very, very soft. So anybody, this is not a Tesla promotion, but if you look at the cost of Model Ys and Model 3s right now, they're as low as I think they've ever been, and you can really affordably get one for less than what you would pay for a nice sedan or comparable SUV gas options. So, any other thoughts
on their F-150s too?
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, like anything else, when the market gets soft, I mean, we just got done talking about a soft real estate market, and there's apprehension. People don't make big purchases, and cars are definitely part of included in that. And yeah, we're seeing that all across the board in the car market also. So
I do have one more thing to say, Dylan, about this.
Yep.
I do know this person who is in politics that's on this panel that can actually get some things done if he wants to have some changes done for the state side of tax reprieve for the Teslas. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I know that you know how to do this.
We ain't got no time for that right now.
Everybody.
So. Our friend Chelsea also she is also a Tesla owner on Maui, so she's commented that Maui County provides free charging right now at all of the stations they own. So that's a cool incentive from the county government to do that.
Yeah.
And then Mara, who's on the Big Island, is also added that Helco has some rapid charging stations. I believe they only have one though. So if you show up and somebody else is already there, you're kind of gotta screwed and you kind of gotta wait. And it's also very it's inconvenient because it's at the base yard of the electric company. It's not like it's at like Walmart or Target where you can plug in while you go in and shop and do other things. So, all right, cool. Thanks for you guys' comments and input on that. Any final thoughts on electric vehicles? Anything to add?
The only thing I would say is if you haven't ridden in the Tesla, just fly to LA someday because it's the #1 car of all the Uber drivers.
Yep, it's true.
Yes. You know what's a cool thing I saw recently is that Elon Musk's plan with a lot of the old, because I do leases, so they always take the lease back. They don't give you the option to buy the lease because what they're going to turn these former leased vehicles into our driverless taxis. And so that's one of the things they're going to do with them. But the other thing he's talking about, which is fascinating, is you're going to be able, and the concept is like Airbnb for your car. So if you own a Tesla and they're going to load the software into it once this all becomes available, and you're going to be able to go on a program to turn your personally owned vehicle into a driverless taxi. So when you're not using it, it's just going to drive away from your house, go drive people around and generate revenue, and then return back to your house when you need it. And then they're going to split the revenue with you. And he's saying that it'll far outweigh the money you'll make is projected to far outweigh whatever cost it is to buy the vehicle. But how bizarre is that, right? You go on a trip for a week and your car is just driving around.
I have chills hearing that. I got the creepies in the back of my neck. I'm like, oh, this is so starting. We're at that precipice of, the iRobot era. I'm like getting chills everywhere.
And it's not like real big in Hawaii yet, but if you go to Vegas, there are driverless cars all over the place in Vegas. And they still have a driver sitting in it because there's all the beta testing going on, but they're not actually driving, right? They have to be in it because of the law, but these electric cars are just driving people around automatically. So yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Lots of innovation. And they also have the loop in Vegas, which is a tunnel, right? That's Elon's other innovation is he says flying cars are never going to be a thing because the physics don't really work out in terms of the amount of power it takes. But the way to overcome traffic and increase transportation speeds is just to build tunnels. And so they have these tunnels that run underneath between the hotel and the convention center and different places. And you can get places in like 3 minutes where it normally take you 15 going through all the surface streets and the traffic lights and stuff. So yeah, crazy stuff. Stuff that, again, like Ronnie said, the bubble in Hawaii, we don't do it in this crazy stuff, right? We just deal with chickens and pigs and
goats.
Yeah. All right. So we had another interesting question come in about, are there boats that go between the islands? And so there's all kinds of different aspects to this question. I think it's a great discussion that we can have. And I have some very personal experience with this because, as Kara mentioned, I had been in politics and actually worked in the governor's office during the Super Ferry era. And so maybe we can start with that. But who wants to lead off in terms of answering the question in general about boats in between the islands? I know Maui has
my wife and my brother-in-law rode on it, the Super Ferry. I think it started in 2007, ended in 2009. And of course, the Ohana here on Kauai made a human barrier down by the harbor to protest. And I think that kind of energy was one of the dynamics, although I'm sure it was mostly financial. So as far as I know, we're the only island archipelago that doesn't have a ferry service. And, like any political issue, there are people on both sides. I think it would be nice. There's risks for different things that can move between the islands. I like the fact that, like, if you're worried about stealing someone's car, it's like, where are they going to go? Of course, if there was a ferry, they could go over to that big city where Patrick chooses to live. Anyway, those are my thoughts. The community was up in arms, and they didn't greet them, with a big aloha welcome.
And I'll provide a little bit of background for that discussion. So what Ronnie was referring to is we had an era where there was a private investor that came in to create a ferry system between the islands. There were some state subsidies that went into upgrading our harbors in order to allow them to dock and facilitate loading cars. And it was something that was really going to be a much more financially viable option for travel in between the islands. Because right now it's crazy. If you want to ship your car in between the islands, it's like almost $800 to just to go from one island to the other. Very, very expensive. And then it's another $150 to fly, right? So if you want to take your car and your body to another island, I mean, it's pretty much $1,000 is what it's going to cost you. And with the super ferry at the time, I'm sure it'd be more expensive now, but at the time it was going to be like $150 to put your car on and go to the other island. So it's going to be a really financially more affordable option, but there was a lot of pushback from environmental groups and others that didn't want that to happen. And so long story short, maybe we'll get into it, but I'll get you guys' take first on this. But long story short, it ended up getting shut down through lawsuits and the Supreme Court. So, but on Maui, Kara, we do have a ferry that goes between
Yes, we do.
Molokai, right?
We have, we have the Molokai ferry and the Lanai expedition. And all I ever say is if anybody wants to go in between Molokai and Maui or Lanai and Maui, is that you go on the early boat and wait until the next morning. If you get seasick for any reason, just go in the early morning, because the afternoon is for adventure junkies like me, because it is the biggest waves even on a calm day. I don't know where they come from. I feel like it's just fantastic. But no, you can get to Maui from Molokai and Molokai back and Lanai. But again, if you want smooth sailing, peaceful, then just go during the day. And there's no cars. It's just mostly like big coolers and furniture and things like that you could bring on, but not cars. It's not that kind of a super ferry where you can have that size. So it's just you and your stuff that you can come.
It's a relatively small boat,
It
right?
is. Both of them are small. Yeah.
Any take on this, Patrick? You know, it's an interesting thing on Oahu is there was, I don't think they've been having the discussion lately, but there was a discussion to have a ferry from the west side into town, right? Remember those discussions where to skip the traffic?
I heard a little bit about it, but it's just like nothing's really come of it. You know, I think right now everybody's still having rail whiplash. Still, so public infrastructure is kind of a touchy subject here on Oahu right now. So until I think the rail is done and complete, whenever that may be, that discussion may come back up again. But right now, I think in general, the island of Oahu is so focused on that public infrastructure project, they just can't spare any bandwidth for any others at the moment. Would just be my opinion.
Yeah, so Mara adds in, this is a very, very good point, is and just like Kara was saying, with going in between just Maui and Lanai and Molokai, the trade winds in Hawaii, this is just a weather phenomenon, come from the east to the west, and then they channel in between these huge mountains that come out of the ocean. And so the channel between the Big Island and Maui is crazy. Like, it's one of the roughest, gnarliest channels to try and traverse. And so you can't, you can do it on a small boat, and unless you're a very skilled waterman and very strong stomach, like, you do not want to be going in between the islands in a small boat. And that's why these super ferries were humongous, right? I think you could put 100 cars in them, and they were like cruise ships, basically. There were these enormous, very expensive boats that they were going to use. So that would have been a pretty smooth trip. And I just had this experience in Tahiti when we went there this summer. And we went from the main island to Moorea, and they basically have a ferry that runs back and forth all day long. I think there's 6 trips a day, because it's only like a 30-minute trip in between the 2 islands. But it was a very cool experience where you just drive your car onto the belly of the boat, and you get off, and then you go inside, and there's a bunch of seats. It looks like almost like an airplane, just really wide with all the seats. And then there's a little coffee shop, and you just go between the islands, and it's a beautiful little ride. And then you go back in your car and you drive off. And I think the whole thing cost $60 or something like that. So it was cool to experience that. And it would be nice in Hawaii. It wouldn't be that simple though, because it was I believe it was 4 hours between the Big Island and Maui, and 6 hours between the Big Island and Oahu, and it was like 3 or 4 hours between Oahu and Kauai. So it was a longer trip because we have the distance between the islands is much greater. But yeah, it was an interesting era that is no longer a thing. It was, for me personally, in my opinion, I was very disappointed. I thought it was something that we, really want to use and look forward to. But there was the conspiracy theory, right? Was that the shipping companies and the airlines were funding these environmental groups to make trouble and sue and have them protest.
And the rental car companies.
And the rental car companies, yeah, all the people that would have been. Peter talks about this all the time, right? The bootlegs, the bootleggers and the Baptists, right? It's an economic effect where the bootleggers who are making alcohol illegally team up with the Baptists who don't like alcohol because of moral issues, and they push for bans on alcohol because both of them get what they want, right? You get the moral issue, and then you also get to sell your illegal alcohol for more. So it's when two opposing groups come together for the same cause, and it was one of those types of situations. But yes, for the foreseeable future, I think to Patrick's point exactly, people are very scarred from public infrastructure projects, Super Ferry, then the rail, and so no discussions recently about anything like that. So we have Megan made a comment here about they have to rely on the Washington State Ferry. It's a highway to the mainland. So yeah, if you live on, this was a bizarre thing, not to kind of go down this rabbit hole, but for me, it was a bizarre thing that people were so against it because it's such a prevalent thing. Wasn't like new technology or something that was risky that hasn't been done before. It's a prevalent thing up and down the east and west coast of the United States, between all of the islands in the Caribbean and the islands in the Mediterranean. It wasn't like a unknown technology, and that was one of the oppositions to it. Was, if anybody cares about the specifics, essentially the reason it got shut down was the lawsuit said that an environmental impact study had to be done before you could run these boats, like we do most things when we do large public infrastructure projects. And the counter argument to that on behalf of the state's position was, at the time, there are plenty of boats that go in between the islands without any environmental impact statement. This isn't any different. It's just another boat that goes in between the islands. It's just carrying cars and people. And ultimately, the Supreme Court sided with the plaintiffs, who said that they needed to do that, and that would have been a very long, costly study. And so the folks that funded it just pulled out, and I think they ended up selling the boats to another country or to the military or something like that. So, anyways, there is your long, drawn-out background about boats in between the islands and why we don't have any. So, yeah. Another joke.
Navigate to 40 minutes in the show, and you'll get the treatise on super ferries.
Yep.
Yes. There you go. All right. So, and I think Joan also says Staten Island Ferry has been around forever. Absolutely. Yeah. So, that's how we used to travel, is by boats, right? It's not a new thing. So, all right, let's go. Let's get into our featured properties of the week, our Diamond and Deals segment. We got some really nice stuff picked out for you guys. So let's see who's up first. All right, we got Patrick. What you got here, Patrick?
So this is a 2-bed, 1-bath condominium in Aiea. It is right off of Kauai Loop. And if you pull up a map of Kauai Loop, it's this nice little pocket of like quiet, like in the city. It's awesome. The building itself has a ton of amenities: pool, kiddie pool, hot tub, sauna, tennis court. The unit even has a storage space that comes with it as well. Everybody always wants to know about storage for condos. So this has a small storage space provided with it, so you can throw that luggage, Christmas ornaments in, kind of thing. The other thing that's nice about it is the location. It's very centrally located to get to like all of the major highway infrastructure. So if you wanted to get on H1, super easy. The 201, H3, it's like all right there. So easy in, easy out. Right across Moanalua, which is the main street to get in. There's a Palamomi Medical Center. Major medical is right there within like walking distance. Also, Pearl Ridge Mall is right there as well. So great infrastructure, relatively close by, but still the quiet neighborhood feel because of this quiet loop that's kind of like stuck off this to the side.
And 510, I mean, it seems like a pretty good deal for Oahu.
It is a
and
great
two parking
deal.
stalls, right? 2 parking stalls is huge, right?
Yes, 2 parking, 2 bed, 1 bath, 2 parking. Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Awesome. All right, so that is a deal and kind of a diamond, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we got moving over to Maui. Kara, what you got over here?
So this is 561 Kainalu Place in Wailuku, and this is just a few houses away from the ocean. So it's right on this very quiet street. Seeing that we're talking about quiet, Patrick, I will add on to that. This is a very quiet street that's been, as we call it, protected by the people that have been there for quite some time. And it is a fantastic opportunity. As if you can see in that top left-hand corner picture, it's shaped like an L. So the main house has 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and it goes wrap around all the way to the back. And that other that you're looking at right at the shorts part of the L is an attached unit on its own. It's a 1 bedroom with a small kitchen and a bathroom in the back that's large for what I call age in place. Larger doors, the roll-in shower, and it's easily accessible. And that is an additional square footage. Even though it's listed at 936 square feet, there is an additional 920 square feet on that left side. And it has the carport. It's a tandem 2, and you can see that there's ample parking throughout. And in the back, it is low maintenance yard. They have the grass for the front for the little kitties and dogs, if you so choose. In the back, it's beautifully handcrafted gravel. And I have to say handcrafted gravel because I have to give props to the owner who had dug out all of the backyard by hand in little sections and cleaned out every bit of the dirt to have proper drainage. She is an amazing human being. And when you see this backyard, it's just well maintained and taken care of. You can see some of the perfect rocks in the back in that lower corner. This offers you an opportunity to have income. It was not an income property, as it has been owned by the owner and only lived in at this point. But again, it's great for investors or for a family who just wants to have mom close, but not too close. That's it.
I like it. And on Maui, I mean, just around $1 million is about as good as you can get for a single family home, right? A well-maintained, move-in ready single family home. So
absolutely. And they are very motivated. Yep. They're very motivated. So we're excited to have any people that are interested in it. Give me a call.
Cool. Love it. All right. Ronnie, what we got over on Kauai?
Well, this is my very polished diamond in the Waiale Alley Estate subdivision on the east side of Kauai. When my client, who is a longtime builder, now retired, saw this lot, he immediately found out who the owner was and bought it back in the 80s. You have views of Mount Waialeale, the wettest place on earth, the Makaleha Mountains, Nono Mountain, which we call Sleeping Giant here, and the Kailua Mountains, which is referred to as King Kong Mountain. So when you stand out on the back lanai, if you look at that upper left picture there, there's a big kind of ravine valley behind you. It is on a flag lot. Again, being a builder, the owner was one of the first people on island to put in photovoltaic. So your electric bills, and it's 2 standalone homes, is either zero or maybe as much as $20 a month. And before we put it on the market, he tightened up every little thing, resurfaced the garage floor with a sealed paint. And like Kara's listing, the separate house allows for additional income if someone's going to pay a mortgage. We have even more space than your listing to make sure that the in-laws aren't too close. But it's a really well-maintained house. Being a contractor, he built all the cabinets. It's hardwood oak floors that have just been refinished. It truly is a diamond. And being on the close to the, well, it's in Kapaa, it's about 5 minutes from our multi-use walking path from Kailua Beach, which is the largest beach on the east side. So it's a fantastic, and even though it's in a residential neighborhood, because it's a flag lot that backs up to this huge valley, you feel like you have tremendous privacy. So there you go.
I love it. Very nice, very nice. And 1.8 on Kauai. I mean, basically two houses, right? Is what you're getting. I mean, it seems like a deal and a diamond.
It definitely is a diamond and a deal. Would
I
make
love
a
it.
great
I love it.
office for, some big real estate company.
Interesting. I wish we knew one of those. All right. All right. And what I got, I love to feature the most affordable stuff and definitely highlight the Big Island as a place that is absolutely attainable and affordable. And these are two side-by-side lots that are $199 each, and it has an ag shed on it, which a lot of times is very valuable or very variable in how you use it. But this, on the Big Island, you can get a lot of land, a lot of space. You're going to be in a rural area. You're going to be very private. This has got ohia trees on it. You got room for animals. I mean, all kinds of stuff. But just a good perspective where you don't have to have multi-million dollars to purchase, whether you're local or you're coming from the mainland. And the Big Island offers the maximum amount of affordability and really variation in terms of climate. You can be on the west side, the southwest side, where it's drier, and you can be on the east side where it's a lot wetter. And if you want to grow things, everything grows there. Lots of soil. So lots to think about, but just wanted to add this one into the mix and show you. This was, I think, is a really great variation, right? Showing across the state. You got condos, a great condo in Oahu. You have a great single-family home on Maui, the multi-unit home on Kauai, and then if you want to build your own empire over here on the Big Island, you can start off with your ag shed and then a couple of pieces of land and lots of options. So
if you buy a lot for $199, or maybe you go over asking and pay $199.5, what is the cost for water and wastewater over there?
So in most cases, something like this is going to be off the grid for water. So you're going to do catchment, and in a place like this, you're going to get enough water really to support any type of family that you have, as long as you build a big enough catchment tank. You want about 10 to 15,000 gallons, but it rains enough where that'll sustain a good sized family. For wastewater, you got to do septic systems, as you do in pretty much on Maui and Kauai. In most places we got to do septic systems. That is dependent upon one, size, and two, what's underneath the ground. So on the Big Island, you have some areas that are older that have a lot of dirt and it's relatively easy to dig. You have other areas that are just, there's 2 inches of dirt and then it's just blue rock or lava rock underneath, and it's very, very hard. So you got to bring in big machines to dig those holes. So the cost varies based upon what it's going to cost to build it. But in most cases, we kind of tell people, 15 grand plus or minus. If it's a really difficult one, maybe you could get a little bit higher, closer to 20. But that's in general what it costs for septic systems.
Interestingly enough that you brought that up. Well, they're much more here. I can tell you that. They're probably around $50,000. They used to be 30, post-COVID 50. However, the county, it actually expires today, unfortunately. They issued a $20,000 grant to anyone that would upgrade from cesspool to septic. The opportunity ends today, and it's a reimbursement grant. So some of the local banks offer to finance the system, because that's a lot of money for people to pay out front. But they're only about maybe a decade or two late with the idea. Back when the systems were 25,000, 15 grand would have helped, but now that they're 50, even 30 is a lot.
This is a great topic that we've talked about in the past. I mean, I think septic designers from an engineering standpoint and installers from a construction standpoint are probably the two best businesses to get into in Hawaii over the next couple of years, and you'll have a really solid stream of business for the next about 20, because we have that that law in the books that by 2050 all the cesspools got to be switched over. And I've explained the math before on this, where in order to meet that goal, we probably have to convert about 3,000 cesspools a year. Currently, we do about 170 to 200. So we'd be needing to do over 10 times as many conversions every year to meet the goal. Yeah. So the fact that I don't think we're ever going to I don't think they're going to have to adjust when we get closer to 2050. We kind of criminalize tens of thousands of people all across the state because of a lack of availability or finances to actually get it done. So it'll be interesting what happens, but just a good example of politicians kicking the can down the road and letting somebody else deal with it. We'll pass a law to say that we like the environment and we're doing the right thing, but it's not implementable at all from a practical standpoint. But
we have huge challenges on Kauai, especially on the North Shore. Because we don't have a wastewater treatment plant. The latest idea, and they're seeking federal funds, is to actually move all the sewage from Honolulu through the ocean up to something in Princeville. And, huge cost. How do you go, underwater? And it's an issue, especially from an environmental perspective, everything from the cesspool that winds up in the ocean.
So more chills.
Huh?
Yeah,
more chills.
Yeah, that seems like a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah,
it's not good.
All right, so we're getting to the end of our show here, folks. Thank you guys for joining us. And then we got our closing thoughts. So let's jump right into this so we can end on time. We have Patrick up first. What you got, Patrick?
The only thing I can say to everyone today is, our market is still strong. If you're interested in coming out here, definitely we've got something in every price point for everybody, as we kind of showed with our diamonds and deals. So don't be afraid to come out and take a look, and definitely take advantage of the cohort that's coming up next month. Today's the last day to register. Definitely get in. That's going to take the edge off of any apprehension you might have about making a move out here. And at the end, you may decide it's not for you. So definitely jump in on that cohort.
Absolutely. Awesome. Kara, what you got?
Well, I do want to start with a little ping off of what Patrick said. I just met a woman who came here over a year ago, and she actually said that if she had only known, she would have had more connections. And I think that's what makes Maui, Hawaii in general, all of the islands, really important for you to have that sense of connection and aloha before you make the jump. And you'll know where to go, who to connect with, and it'll make it an easier transition. So I second what Patrick said of getting in on this cohort for sure. And I do want to leave you with this. This is a little quote from, buddy Wayne Dyer, is when you judge another, it does not define them. It defines yourself. And I'm challenging everyone to think about that when we're in this volatile time of politics. There, I said that word. I'm not going any further than that. But when we're in this political time where it's heated, remember, when you judge others, you're really defining yourself. So be mindful of how you're throwing those stones out there, my darlings. That's all.
I love it. That's some wisdom right there. Good stuff.
Well, I didn't follow the right format there and put it as my quote, my good friend Carl Bard. Though no one can go back and make a brand new start, anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. And so if you're thinking of moving to the islands, doesn't matter where you are, each one of us and our teams can help make your Hawaii dreams come true. Right. And just to piggyback on what Kara said, I think of this too when I think of the heated polarity. It's like I'm not responsible for what someone else says or does. I'm only responsible for how I respond to it. So there you go.
Absolutely.
That's right.
I love it. And mine is connected to all of this. This is something that I use often with my children, is choosing your hard. And there's so many ways to apply this. In our health, it's hard to stay healthy and exercise and eat well, but it's also hard to be unhealthy in the future and have to suffer through those problems. I think it's hard to be accepting of people, and it's hard to judge people. And so you have to choose which one you want to do. There's no easy choice. And everything that we do in life, depending on your perspective, is hard, and you just got to choose which one. It's hard to work hard and be successful, and it's also hard to be poor and struggle. So you have to really choose which path you want to take. And I always think about this as when somebody says it's hard, it's like, well, it's a choice whether or not you can choose the other way, but it's not going to be any easier. It's still going to be hard. So Good stuff, you guys. Awesome show today. We are ending right on time. They're just like professionals. We did not need Peter. Let everybody know I can handle this without Peter. But I appreciate you guys joining from around the state. This is a lot of fun. Went by very, very quickly. We will be back in 2 weeks. If you haven't been following the YouTube channel, everybody, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are actually putting shows out every week. We have pre-recorded shows that we're doing on specific topics with folks from around the state. We're adding lots of new friends to the show, and we will continue to do this regular show with Peter every other week. So we'll be back in 2 weeks. Submit you guys questions. Always appreciate you guys supporting the channel. And like Patrick said, join the Ohana. If you have any interest at all, reach out. We can get you more information on that, but it is something that will be invaluable. And the big bonus is if you end up buying a home and you use us and you work with one of our teammates, you will get the cost of tuition back when you close. And so it can really cost you nothing by getting the education and working with a trusted professional all across the state who can take care of you anywhere you are. So with that, you guys, let's go around. Let's start from the bottom up and say aloha. Ronnie, go ahead.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha all. Be well.
Hello, everybody. Have an awesome weekend. See you guys in a couple weeks.